Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Emily and I make videos about motherhood, marriage, and homemaking. So if that sounds interesting to you, make sure that you click that subscribe button. Today specifically we are talking about postpartum. If you're not following me on Instagram, you definitely should head over there. I always leave the links to all of my other social media down in the description box below. But I asked you guys on Instagram for something that you think should be discussed more but is not discussed enough as it pertains to motherhood, marriage, homemaking, or general womanhood. And something I got a couple of times was postpartum. And I feel like postpartum is one of those things that is talked about a lot but not talked about enough, if that makes sense. So today I'm going to be telling you 5 things that I did not expect from the postpartum period. If you're new here, you don't know, but I had a baby boy last December. I'm actually pregnant with my second child now, and I am due with her March the 14th. So I've been through the postpartum period and now I'm pregnant again. I got pregnant 6 months postpartum from my last pregnancy. So I have some perspective to give on postpartum. I am fixing to go through another postpartum period, and I will do another video when I go through that second postpartum period. But I definitely have some things that surprised me about the postpartum period after you have a baby. So I'm going to be giving you 5 things that I did not expect from postpartum. So the first thing that took me by surprise with the postpartum period was how strange my body looked and felt after having a baby. Most people probably know that your stomach does not immediately go back down after having a baby. It takes a while. It can take some women as long as a year for their stomach to go back down. And even if it goes back down, it's never truly the same, just to be honest. Once your muscles have been stretched out like that, you know, nothing ever goes back to 100% as tight as it used to be. Maybe it would if you were a bodybuilder or a super fit person, but for most women, their stomachs never completely go back to normal. But I just was not expecting how strange things would look and feel once there was no longer a baby in there. Because the next day after I had my son, that evening I was finally able to take a shower, and I remember looking at myself in the mirror and just thinking, ugh, because my stomach looked similar to a deflated balloon. It was still there. I mean, it still looked like a baby bump, but it wasn't hard and firm like it was when the baby was in my belly. It felt squishy, really, really squishy and freaky. Like, it just freaked me out. And then too, I had a lot of stretch marks that I didn't know before I gave birth. Like, you couldn't really see them as well when my stomach was stretched out. But as my stomach started to go back down, those stretch marks became very, very visible. They were very, very bright. I had very bright reddish purple stretch marks on the sides of my stomach. So it's just weird. It's just strange because you were, especially if it was your first child, because you went from tight tummy, you know, your muscles were all tighter and everything was somewhat normal, you know, and then you get pregnant and you stretch out for 9 months and you get used to there being a baby in there and you get used to there being a bump, and then the baby's gone and you're left with all of this weirdness. But never fear, you will get back to looking more like your normal self. Like I said, once you have a baby, I don't feel like you ever go back to complete 100% normal. There are going to be changes that happen to your body because you were pregnant, but your stomach will go back down. Your stretch marks will fade. You won't have that squishiness forever, that weird first day postpartum squishiness. You won't have that forever. It will go away. But it's strange. It's just kind of strange. And, you know, it's just all part of having a baby. The second thing that took me by surprise, and most people will probably think this should not have taken you by surprise, but it was the extreme sleep deprivation. And everybody says that, you know, everybody says, oh, sleep now because you won't be sleeping after the baby comes. It's hard to get sleep when the baby comes. And I knew that, I knew that I was going to be sleep deprived. And I thought I'd been sleep deprived before because I had, been working and then up all night cleaning and then going to work, and like I'd been tired before. But for my first pregnancy, when I was pregnant, up until the last few weeks, I slept like a rock. I don't know why. I don't know how I was able to sleep so well. This pregnancy, I have not slept near as well. But with my first pregnancy, I slept like a rock. And so that was one thing that I had gotten so used to in pregnancy, was going to bed at a certain time and sleeping solid through the night, except for maybe to get up to pee. But so when my son was born, I was like on this high of adrenaline in the hospital, because I think I may have slept 4 hours in the hospital. So I was on like this high of adrenaline. But once I got home, I crashed. My mom came over to keep the baby for a few hours so that me and my husband could get some sleep. But those first few weeks, especially, like it takes babies a while, especially depending on if they're formula fed or breastfed, and then every baby is different. It takes a while for them to get to where they're sleeping longer spurts during the night. When they're newborns, generally they wake up very, very frequently. And so I remember feeling like every night when it got towards bedtime, when it got towards the time I would normally be going to bed, just feeling like, oh, I'm going to be up all night, and just being so tired, almost like I crossed a barrier between tired and exhaustion and then just zombie. And it's normal for that to happen. It is normal to be sleep deprived when you're a new mother and when you have a newborn baby. There's nothing wrong with your baby if your baby is waking up constantly through the night. That is what babies do. And none of the stuff in postpartum is permanent. Like, I feel like, you're not going to be up all night with a newborn forever. You're not going to be, struggling with extreme sleep deprivation forever. You're not. And so it's totally worth it. Everything is totally worth it in the end, because you have your beautiful baby and, all that your body went through to have that baby. But in the newborn stage, you're going to deal with sleep deprivation, and I guess I did not prepare myself enough for that. Numbers 3 and 4 kind of coincide a little bit, but number 3 is baby blues. I personally did not experience postpartum depression during my postpartum time period, but I did have a little bit of the baby blues. And what the baby blues are is basically you just feel kind of sad and kind of down, and there's not exactly you don't have exactly a defined reason for it. You may feel down because your life has changed. You may feel down because you're not sleeping. You may feel down about your body. But for a period of about a week, I felt baby blues, just sad. And it's odd, because you want to be happy because you just had your baby and you want to be happy, but there's just this part of you that just feels kind of down and kind of sad. And for me, what helped me with the baby blues was just kind of acknowledging that is what I had. That's what was wrong with me. I had the baby blues, and just crying it out to my husband and just getting it all out really helped me with the baby blues. But that's not something I was expecting, because I was so excited to be a mom and I was so excited to have my baby. So the baby blues took me kind of by surprise, because I was like, I've been thinking and planning and preparing myself for this all this time. So why do I feel sad? Why do I feel sad about my life being different and things like that? And so, but what helped me was talking about it, having a good cry, and just acknowledging what I was going through. Postpartum depression is quite a bit different, and I'm not going to talk about it too much because I don't feel that knowledgeable about it, since I have not personally experienced it. But if you have experienced that, you definitely know all about that and all about what that entails. And that's a very hard thing for women to go through. Many, many women deal with postpartum depression, but just know that baby blues and postpartum depression, it's not abnormal. It doesn't make you a bad mother. It doesn't mean that you're a bad parent or that you don't love your baby. It's mostly hormonal, and it has to do with all of the changes that just happen to you all at once. Birth is a very traumatic thing for your body and your hormones, and pregnancy is very hard on your hormones. So it's not abnormal. tons and tons of women go through both of these. And so I don't want you to feel like you're alone. There are so many resources out there for women dealing with postpartum depression. And I don't want you to feel like you're a bad mother, because you're not. It is totally a normal thing that women go through. Not everybody gets postpartum depression. Not everybody gets baby blues, but you're not alone. The fourth thing, like I said, it kind of coincides with the baby blues and the postpartum depression, but it is hormones. And it took me completely off guard, the crazedness of my hormones. Because when you go from being pregnant, you know, pregnancy is a really strange time for your hormones. You cry a lot, you're more irritable because your hormones are just going crazy, because your body is going through so many changes at one time, and you don't have a period for the whole time that you're pregnant, so all of those hormones are just swirling around. Well, then you give birth and then your body's like trying to figure out, okay, there's not a baby in here anymore, so I guess we need to have a period now. And so you're having all of your bleeding and all of your stuff, and everything's going on, and your body is just going crazy. Your hormones go crazy, and your hormones are going to be trying to level back out once you are postpartum. And so for me, I thought I was going crazy because I was so emotional and I was so easily stressed. And I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about. When my husband went back to work for his first day back to work, and it was just me and the baby, everything started off smoothly. He was happy and content, and I was, you know, I got him ready, I got myself ready, I was doing my little chores and tidying up around the house, and then I decided to have a little photo shoot with him. So I was trying to get a few cute little newborn pictures of him, and he started getting fussy. And about the time he started getting fussy, and I was trying to get him calmed down, then my dog decides to start vomiting all over my living room carpet, all over my rug. And so all this was happening at one time. My baby was screaming, my dog was vomiting, and I was falling apart. And I feel like if my hormones had not been so crazy, I probably would have been able to handle that a lot more calm. But then too, on top of hormones, everything is new when you have a brand new baby, especially if you're a first-time mom. Everything is new. You don't know what you're doing. You don't know everything about your baby. You're learning your baby. Your baby is learning you. Everything is brand spanking new. And so I just felt completely overwhelmed that day. And so I'm trying to get my dog outside, and I'm trying to clean up the carpet, and I'm trying to soothe the fussy baby, and I'm trying to get him down for a nap. I finally got him down, and then I went to go make myself something to eat because I had not eaten that day. And as soon as I sat down to eat, he started screaming again. So I remember going in my bathroom, shutting the door, bawling my eyes out, and praying to God and going, Lord, you're gonna have to help me because I don't know what I'm doing, and I don't think I can do this. And it seems so silly to me now because I remember thinking, I can't do this. I can't be a mother. I don't know what I'm doing. Like, this is too much. This is overwhelming to me. I remember feeling that way. And everything really wasn't that big of a deal. I got the baby calmed down. I got the mess cleaned up. My husband got home. He took the baby and let me eat. And I was able to be calmer. But my hormones were so crazy, and I just was so tense. And so I would be crying a lot, and just, your hormones are just crazy. And so it's not uncommon, I think, for you to be so hyper emotional and in a very hyper emotional state and think, I can't do this. This is too much for me. This is too overwhelming. It's just all part of the postpartum and new mom experience. The fifth and final thing that I did not expect about the postpartum period was that breastfeeding could be so difficult. And before I give a little bit of my story, I just want to say that I think that if you breastfeed, that's great. But I also think that if you formula feed, that's great too. I feel like there's a lot of pressure on women to breastfeed. I felt pressure from the doctors in the hospital and from social media to breastfeed. And I did genuinely want to breastfeed because I did think this is going to be the best thing for my baby, and it was also a lot cheaper than formula. But breastfeeding did not work out out for me, and I chose to stop breastfeeding, and I will not be breastfeeding in the future. And I know for a lot of people, they have the same thing happen to them. Their milk supply didn't come in, or they dealt with something similar to what I did, or it just didn't work out for them and it stressed them out and it overwhelmed them. Whatever the reason is that you did not decide to breastfeed or you stopped breastfeeding, just know that it doesn't make you a bad mother. It doesn't make you any less of a parent, and it doesn't mean that you are not doing right by your child. As long as they are being fed, that is the most important thing. And the second thing I would say is, if you are pregnant and you really want to breastfeed, educate yourself as much as you can before your baby comes, because I feel like maybe if I had educated myself a lot more on breastfeeding prior to having my baby, what happened to me might not have happened to me, and I might have had a good breastfeeding experience. I may not have, but I might have. I think a lot of my problem came because I did not know what I was doing. But in essence, what happened to me was, like I said, I did not know what I was doing, and I could not get my milk supply to come in. When we first started out breastfeeding, Cade had a really rough latch. We sort of corrected that problem in the hospital with the lactation consultant. She showed me how to help him latch so that it would not be as painful, because it was very, very painful for me in the beginning. But he would get angry because he wasn't getting enough, because I didn't have enough. So I had decided, okay, I'll stop breastfeeding and putting him to the breast, because we were already supplementing with formula because I didn't have any milk. My milk was coming in extremely slow. So I decided I would supplement with formula, and then I would just exclusively pump. So I was trying to pump. None of the time that I was doing this was I pumping enough, because again, did not know what I was doing, did not know how much I needed to be pumping in order to produce a milk supply, which my mother was never able to breastfeed with us either. She said her milk never came in, so that may be why my milk may have never came in. But I would pump for an hour and still only get 2 ounces of milk, and he was getting majority formula. So I just decided, this is stressing me out too much. I had had a fever, which I thought was milk fever, because I had read that when you have a low-grade fever that your milk is trying to come in. So that's why I was trying to pump, so that my milk would come in. My milk was not coming in, and I had a fever, and I was in pain. My breasts were very sore, and especially on my left side, it was very sore. And I was so stressed out about it, and I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna stop, because he is getting fed, he's gaining weight, he's eating from the bottle perfectly, like he's not having any tummy trouble with the formula. Was like, I'm just going to stop because I'm so stressed out. And I dealt with a lot of guilt. I remember crying and feeling so guilty for stopping breastfeeding. And my mom and my mother-in-law, they all told me, they're like, he's gaining weight, he's fine, he's healthy, he is eating. You don't need to be beating yourself up about this. It doesn't work out for everybody. So I stopped. But I should have asked for advice from a lactation person or from my doctor before I stopped, because when I stopped, I had already developed, unbeknownst to me, I had developed mastitis in my left breast. And I think it was because I wasn't pumping enough, and I wasn't nursing. I had stopped nursing, I wasn't pumping enough, and then I stopped cold turkey. So the fever that I had was from mastitis, and it had developed into an infection in my left side. And so when I stopped everything, the infection got so much worse, and it was very, very painful. I was very, very swollen. I had some skin breakdown, cellulitis, and I did not know that's what it was. It took me until New Year's Day to call the hospital and be like, look, I think I've got an infection. And they called me an antibiotic. I went and saw my doctor. I did have mastitis. She said it was the worst case of mastitis she had ever seen, which I believe her, because it was awful. And she told me the antibiotics don't always work. Sometimes you have to have a procedure done to drain the infection. And the antibiotic did not work for me. I ended up having to have the infection drained, which was very, very awful and very painful. And, you know, it was about a month process for me to completely heal from that. I still have a scar from that. And it was a very bad experience for me. And I think it really scarred me, because I don't want to breastfeed this time, and I'm not going to start out breastfeeding, and I may get judged for that, but I do not want to take a chance of what happened to me happening to me again. And like I said, it may not have happened to me that way had I been more educated going into it, but since I've been through that, I don't want to go through that again. And I have just come to the realization that it's okay if I don't breastfeed. You know, like I said, a lot of women, breastfeeding doesn't work out for them, and or they choose not to breastfeed for whatever reason. They choose not to breastfeed. And as long as your baby is eating, and as long as your baby is gaining weight and getting the food that they need to nourish their bodies, it's okay. Not breastfeeding does not make you a bad mother. It does not make you a bad parent. It does not mean that you're not doing the best that you can for your baby. And you know, I am so happy for anybody that's able to breastfeed. I know so many women that love breastfeeding, and I think that's wonderful. And I wish that it had worked out that way for me. I wish that I would have had the experience of loving breastfeeding, and I wish I'd had the experience of that bonding with my baby. And I'm not saying that if you're able to breastfeed that it was easy for you, because I know that breastfeeding, there's a lot to it. There's a lot of pain involved in the beginning. You know, there's a lot that you have to work through, and I'm not saying that if you were able to breastfeed that it was easy, because I know it wasn't. I know many women that have breastfeeding was a hard-fought battle for them, but they won, and I think that's great. And I think it's great what you're doing. And I'm not making light or belittling anybody that breastfeeds, but I'm trying to speak to those of you that have not been able to breastfeed or have chosen not to breastfeed, and you've felt bad and felt that mom guilt because you didn't breastfeed or because you couldn't breastfeed. And I just want you to know that it's okay. It doesn't make you a bad parent. It doesn't make you a bad mother because you didn't breastfeed. It, you know, it's as long as your baby's getting fed. That is really all that matters. Okay guys, that is all I have for you today. My baby is waking up, so I need to go get him. But I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you found it helpful or encouraging in some way. If you did, make sure to hit that like button so that I know that you guys enjoyed this content. If you haven't already, make sure that you subscribe so you can be notified when I post future videos. And if you want more content from me, I have links down below for my blog, my Pinterest, my Instagram. All of that is always in the description box, so make sure that you check all of those links out. And if I don't see you guys beforehand, I hope you have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.